Welcome to Making It Artisan Stories with Bert Piedmont, an author and creator of various cards and items of semi-occult nature. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm from Wallingford, always and forever. I went to Lyman Hall in the 80s, so now you know how old I am.
I went to Sheehan in the 80s, so...
And even back then I was just, interested in writing and kind of did it on and off. And then about 10, 15 years ago, I started creating of objects and working at some New Age fairs, the Astrological Society of Connecticut New Age Fair, because I was a member back then. And my friend Carol and I wrote this book called Ayersford. And we had a lot of fun doing it, and that kind of got me into, well, I want to do my own thing. I don't want to work on Carol's vision. I want to work on Bert's vision. And I decided to, get my master's degree, which I did, and that's where the stories in the Maw came from. All the different classes that I took that were in kind of, pushing your literary boundaries and pushing your imagination and doing things in a different way. And I just started to see that there was this theme to where my imagination went, just these certain little bits that it came back to. And when I was done, I called up my friend and I said, I think we could make a little book out of this. And we did, and that's it. And people who read it seem to really like it.
I read it last night and this morning, and I was enthralled. I was so impressed with this book. I immediately wanted to read more of what you had written. It was subtly humorous, but it was also deep, and it was thought-provoking, and it was transportive. It was the world that you created in that book is fascinating, and it really draws you in and really makes you want to read more of what the various pieces of this. It comes together as something that you could see all these other possibilities opening up of where the story could go. And so you took the story other places here?
This is like Stephen King and his Dark Tower. This is like my Dark Tower. I mean, after I finished this, and I said, well, that's it. Everything's going to be related to this. I went back and I looked at Ayersford. Ayersford had a lizard in it, and he was the first time traveling lizard. Even going back to, I think this came out in 2011, and we worked on it for years before that. So going back all that time, already I had a time traveling lizard whispering in my ear. Because if you read Ayersford, how else could he have gone everywhere in the book and known what everybody was thinking if he wasn't a time-traveling lizard? Wherever that came from, it's been happening for a really long time. In the Mickey Crow series, it's a lot more subtle, but it's still the same world, formless. The Shigatli is the Chomping Chinampa from here. I never say Chomping Chinampa, but if you've read the Maw and you read Formless, you're going to recognize it and be like, here's this amorphous, shape-shifting thing that eats people, and it appears again in my book that's about to come out in February, which is called Fat Monster. In this case, it's slightly different in that it's now a fungus. It's part mushroom, but it's still
the thread that goes through the different books.
Yeah.
And connects them. It's really fascinating, the creatures that you've summoned up with your imagination. Can you tell us about some of these creatures and where you might have got inspiration for them?
The Shoggoth I didn't invent. The Shoggoth came from H.P. Lovecraft, but I put my own take on it, which is why I've now shifted it into putting an Aztec spin on it and calling it a Shigatli. It's based on Lovecraft, but I've taken it and made it into my own. I've made it smaller. I've made it more intelligent. I've made it more flexible where it can become anything, whereas the Shoggoth was kind of protoplasmic, but it wasn't something that could truly shapeshift into anything, whereas my Shigatli can. So I do kind of riff on things that exist. Formless, obviously, is a mermaid, but I took the idea of a mermaid and I said, what if instead of being half a fish, what if it was half a shark? what would that mermaid be if it had like those shark instincts?
Rather than the kindly fish
Yeah.
instincts that are
Yeah,
usually.
you know, that's the mystery, is they think that it's shark attacks, and it's shark attacks, mermaid attacks. So I kind of took that idea and kind of turned it on its head. I think people tend to think like, oh, mermaids are like sweet and good, and these mermaids, they have big nasty shark teeth and the black eyes, and from here down they're shark, and I gave them kind of their own biology where they can mate with humans or mate with sharks, and I made it really complex. It even goes a little bit with the chart I have in the maw with how the mermaids there work. So again, like I took something that exists, I put my own spin on it, made it my own thing.
And how did you come to like kind of set it in Mesoamerica?
That's been a fascination of mine since college. I read this book called just Aztec by Gary Jennings, which is, I read it at least once a year, and it's an amazing book. It really made me completely fall in love with their culture. Every single year I used to actually publish a little calendar. I used to correlate our calendar system with theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So much work, and I didn't sell that many for the amount of time that it took me when I could productively make something else. It just wasn't worth it, and I stopped doing it, but I didn't stop loving it. That's why I chose that culture, because I know so much about it, and I still, will still pick up a book, like an anthropology type book, and just read about it, or if I see some National Geographic kind of show that talks about their pyramids or whatever. And
yeah, they're always finding new stuff,
Yeah.
because they've really kind of just started scratching the surface of the ancient societies that existed there for thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
years. In the book, you kind of show what the world might have been like if the Americas hadn't been invaded and basically diseased to death when they came in contact with the Europeans. It's just fascinating how these different circumstances might have evolved had these ancient civilizations been allowed to continue into modern technology. And is that something that you go into in the other books?
there's a story of mine that's going to be out in the spring in a literary magazine called 34 Orchard. That's basically another story along those lines. I call them dragons, but it's one of their Quetzalcoatl people, intelligent people that has come up to live in Boston and is the subject of a lot of racial inequality and being attacked, and there's a lot of metaphors, which is how a story about a Quetzalcoatl got into a literary magazine because of that. But it's a story set in that world, and she's actually a librarian down there, and she comes up looking for a rare manuscript, but she's got to face the fact that the people where she comes from accept her for being a dinosaur, but when she comes up here, they think that she's a terrible monster, and she's attacked in the streets, and to her, she's just a librarian. She wears glasses and she reads books, and she doesn't understand why they're treating her so badly. And that was the sort of thing I want to look at, because if a society just evolves and it's got different creatures that evolve alongside of it, what happens when you come forward and it's the time of the revolution and you've got a dinosaur who's a librarian with glasses on who just wants to read a book? How is that person? It's a person. How's that going to get treated? So that's going to be out in the spring. I think it's just 34orchard.com, but it's free to read. And it's a really good, dark literary journal.
I'll be reading it.
Basically, everything I write is, you're playing two games with yourself. What if, and why? Those two questions, you just keep bouncing those two questions back and forth, and just make sure that every question leads into another one, so that there's always cause and effect in your story.
One thing that I noticed was that you don't shy away from the brutality of nature and how it affects us as humans, even though we think of ourselves as maybe not the same as animals, but we are. and the instincts and the primal urges that we have come from the animal kingdom. So it was, that was one of the thought-provoking aspects, I thought, when I was reading the book, was how you just subconsciously start making these associations between different mindsets of people, and how different relationships growing up, like when you have the three different subspecies growing up together, how that fosters a sense of family among them. How when they go to other places that aren't raised in this inclusive environment, how once again the prejudices immediately pop up. They're very, timeless kinds of themes, and your work is esoteric in a way, but at the same time, these themes are, truly at the heart of humanity. There's things that, we have to search our collective souls to really, root out what's, just a primal urge kind of thing, and what's something that we consciously evolve into. Because that's maybe the only thing that differs between us and the other animals, is our ability to change our evolution consciously. They're great for opening up the box of the mind, kind of bring people into another way of thinking about things. And I can see that at first, with a short summary of what these books are, that people may not understand the real depth of the stories that you are telling. And I think that more people should read them so that they can also understand what you're trying to say. So I'm really, really glad to know that there's more of these books coming out, so that I will have more to read in the future, because I was really impressed with the stories. And like I said, I've read literally thousands of books, mostly fiction. And the world that you created is really outstanding. It's very different but familiar in certain ways. And I think that really most people could really get swept away with these stories that you've written. And I really hope that more people come to hear about your book and read your book. And at current time, you're selling them online?
All of them are on Amazon. Most of them are also Kindle Unlimited. So I try to make all my things available through Kindle Unlimited. So you pay your little monthly fee and you can read as many as you want. And I put all my books there. And I know this anthology that just came out that I'm in is also on Kindle Unlimited. And like I said, there is a time-traveling lizard story in there. It's called The Twist of the DNA.
Bringing up another aspect of your creativity, you also do fairs at steampunk events. Yes. And holistic kind of events and New Age kind of events. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your role at these shows?
I help plan them a little bit. Steampunk event, there's a really big one coming up the first weekend of February called Stupid Cupid. The New York Times best-selling author Gail Carriger is going to be there, and she's amazing, and I wrote the letter that brought her. It was my idea to bring her too, but I was the one who also wrote the letter. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of proud of that. Yeah. So I help them behind the scenes as well, because I've done so much vending that whenever they're putting together stuff for vendors, they'll run it by me first and say, for vendors, does this work? For you, when you're vending, do you want to see this type of thing or do you want to see that type of thing? And can you help us with the language on this and stuff like that? So I work for them in the background, and I also actually vend there, coming in with my table and setting up all of my things. And I usually sell both books and things that I make, which is I do make some kind of steampunk, pagan, gothic-y type jewelry. Uh-huh. I make things that look like I do.
I saw hair fasteners.
Yep, I have hair clips.
Necklaces.
Brooches. I have some necklaces. Problem is, a lot of fairs just will see that you make jewelry and just not even let you in, even though I try to say mine is not really like other people's. And the other thing about making jewelry is you make jewelry once. You make this beautiful mug, right? And this mug is gorgeous. And I know you said you bought it at a craft fair.
I did.
But the thing is, you make this mug and someone purchases this mug, and now you have to make the mug again. Whereas if I write this book, I've written the book, I never have to write this book again, and I can sell this book forever. And if I want more books, I just go on Amazon and say, send me 10 formless, or send me 5 formless, or however many I want, and just give them money. And I never have to sit down and write formless again. It's what's called evergreen. And if I want a new book, I write a new book once. And then I have that book to sell forever. And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to put my energies toward doing each thing one time and not make 10 necklaces and then make 10 more necklaces and make 10 more necklaces. I want to make 10 books and then make 10 more books and then have 20 books to sell forever.
And you also design cards here.
Yes, this is my newest card deck, which is the Desert Divination Oracle. I have some of the cards spread out there, and
Beautiful.
this is actually based on the Aztec and Mayan calendar underneath, like the framework underneath, but basically it's a succulent or cactus pot in the window looking out at the desert. So each pot has a symbol on it, each cactus is different, each desert is different, so those are all the different things on each card that you would read. All those different things, and there's 46 different cards.
And you also have a journal that's connected with them?
Yep, this is my first full-color journal, and this is still, it says not for resale because it's a proof, and it's got errors in it, but every color, every page is full color and matches the deck. So for instance, if you wanted to work on a card every single day, say today you picked this card, this is the page. It's the pot and the background of each card is the full page. So I have that for every single card, and then there's with line pages, and then I have other pages that are just blank that you can, they just have the background pictures and you can write whatever you want. Hopefully the next test print from Amazon will look a little nicer and I can start selling those, and I'm right now working on writing the big book with all the explanations. There's a small book.
Yes, because tarot reading is like chess. You can read the small book, or you can get the big, huge tome and go much.
I did have to go with a book since it's something that I completely created. You can't just give somebody the cards and expect them to read it. So it does come with a little 32-page book. And this is the deluxe one, so it comes in a tin, and it comes with some little extras, and you get a reading from me if you buy the one in the tin. And then I have these other cards I made, which are all little mermaids, and they have affirmations on them, and they're just really, really, really cute.
They're
and I don't usually do things that are so adorable, but these are super adorable. And each one has 2 different affirmations on them, so you can either go about your day and see which affirmation ends up affecting you, or you can pick one and just concentrate on it. And then I have, again, a matching journal, and also because little children like the images so much, I have a coloring book.
These are all great ideas, and like you said, this evergreen concept. Being a crafter who does all of my stuff over and over and over again, I can definitely see the appeal to this. But because I don't know that everyone has the same abilities as you do. To be a writer of the quality that I feel that you are is a rare talent. It really is.
Thank you.
But maybe other people could also do something along this line with maybe greeting cards, design them once and then just have them keep being made.
Certainly. Something like Zazzle. You could definitely design a greeting card and put it on Zazzle, and just, every time it sells, you just get, I have stuff on Zazzle. I have all of these graphics for the little purple deck are all on Zazzle on all products. You buy a mug with it, I get an email saying, hey, somebody bought a mug, and I get $1. I don't have to do anything. Once the mug is up there, all I have to do is say, hey, I got mugs. I got mugs with these on it. You want to buy one, I get $1. You don't buy it, I don't get $1, whatever. I don't have to make mugs. I don't have to sit there and make the mug every single time. I made the graphic once, I can use it over and over, and yes. And people are very big with Canva, which I don't use, but a lot of people do. The class I took in making cards, everyone but me makes all their cards in Canva. And if you learn how to use Canva, which is free, or you can pay a small fee for like the professional, yeah, then you can do stuff like that. You could certainly make cards and things and put them on Redbubble or Zazzle, and that becomes an evergreen product.
And posters.
Yep.
So maybe somebody could consider putting a lot of time and effort into one piece.
Exactly. And
because then they can reproduce that.
Right.
And
or you can think, okay, so I'm going to make this one piece and then make it in 6 different colors. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you could do. I mean, even if you make something like a piece of jewelry, you could even find a way to maybe photograph that piece of jewelry and make that into something that you could reuse. Just a question of looking to see how you could do it.
Yeah. That would be a lot more cost effective than remaking everything every single time, especially with the steampunk stuff, because that's so intricate and complicated.
Yeah.
And there's so many little tiny pieces.
Yeah, so I'm really cutting down on what I'm making now. There's one line that I make that I call my time machines, and that's really what I'm concentrating on. I'm just gonna really only make new time machines going forward, because that's fun, and it goes with my, I'm trying to keep more of a themes, time machines and books and time traveling lizards and my toads, which
the toads are ridiculously cute. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
My friend Christine and I make them, and we are extremely goofy. I think I have about 12 different ones made, and I've got about 20 half made. There's literally a shelf in my craft room that is a whole wall of like half dressed ones with sticky notes on them saying like different costume pieces that we still have to make or find. And basically it's just, we're like, okay, so we have this toad, what are we gonna dress it in? And she does all the makeup. So she puts the makeup on, she puts the eyelashes, she paints the toenails. I make the jewelry, we source the clothes, we come up with little names and stories. Like I made this little wand, so he has his own magic wand. His name is Salem, he's a wizard.
Adorable.
That's Pearl. And that is Shirley Holmes. She is Sherlock Holmes's cousin.
Oh.
And she helps him solve mysteries. When he has to go to small places that he can't fit, she goes for him.
Well, they are truly one-of-a-kind creations. Do you take these to the fairs with you?
Yes, and they're for sale. And my husband would tell you, if he was here on camera with us, to please buy them and get them out of our house. Because I have so many. They are really ridiculously cute. Pearl is named after one of the mer sharks from Shiver. We made her little wig hair, and we go all out. We are ridiculous. We sit at the kitchen counter and we have tea, and we drink tea, and we eat cookies, and we paint toads. Definitely not evergreen.
Sometimes you just have to make stuff.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a calling sometimes. Your hands just want to do something.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you made this?
My husband and I made that. There's a scene in Shiver toward the beginning where 2 of the main characters go to this little like a historical society in the town, and there's a baby mer shark in a jar. And they're talking about whether or not it's real. And this other girl comes up to them and starts talking a mile a minute about how when she was in middle school, she tried to steal it. She took the whole jar and tried to run home with it. She basically becomes like their 3rd best friend after that. And then she's gonna, she's in this book and she'll be in all the books going forward. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, you know what? I think it would be so cool if I had that baby mermaid shark to carry around. I found a rubber shark, and that's the butt, and then the top half is 3D printed.
Oh.
And we had to keep 3D printing it over and over until we got it to be the right size to mate with be the right size for the shark. And then it was like put clay and stuff on it, and then some other parts are made with clay, and then alternating hand painting it and airbrushing it in layers and layers and layers of airbrushing, layers of hand painting, layers of airbrushing, layers of hand painting. I think it took about a month.
Oh.
About a month to make. And then, I bring him with me. And this is the actual thing from the book. This same sign is in the book that they're looking at when the third girl comes up to them and they meet her.
What does it say?
It's like when you're in a museum and there's the sign that tells you what something is. So I made up like a Latin name for the mermaid, and there's like actual coordinates, which are like out in the water where it would have been found. And the collector is Charles Quentin, which is actually one of the people from Jaws. Like there's a lot of Jaws jokes in Shiver. And the name of the place where it was found was Shell Beach, so I put all the shells in there with him. So yes, I call him the baby, and whenever I'm doing any sort of book thing where I'm selling Shiver, I bring the baby.
He's eye-catching. He's definitely going to grab your attention.
That's the whole point. If you come over to look at that, hopefully you'll engage me in conversation and be interested enough to purchase a book.
This would be a great thing to have in a bookstore where people could tell you about what a treat it's going to be to read. I was just in love with the writing as soon as I started reading it. After we get a certain age, you've basically read all the plots of most other books, and this one you have no idea where it's going, and it's a wonderful ride. I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of your work, and I think the cards that you make are really beautiful and thoughtfully done, and if anybody that I know is in need of a new tarot deck, I will also send them your way. And if they need a toad, now we know where to get them. Is there anything that you'd like to tell us about the future of your work?
Working on a 4-book steampunk time travel series with steampunk author Jessica Lucci, and there is going to be a tarot deck that goes with it. It's going to have all the characters and situations from the book.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, ambitious. It's probably going to take us, we figure, probably 2 years. I have 2 writing craft books coming out, which means like if you're a writer and you want to be a better writer, I'm working on 2 craft books. A book called Fat Monster coming out in February, so that'll be available at Stupid Cupid, and around that time it'll also hit Amazon, and that's cosmic horror, and also about how badly fat women are treated by society. So the Fat Monster has a kind of dual meaning as being the monster itself and also how people look at the main character, who's an overweight woman.
I can relate.
So that's, like I said, I've got 6 people reading it right now, and they're going to get back to me with comments, and then I'll fix it and edit it. And
sounds like another fascinating read.
Yep, and then working on a couple more decks here and there. My spare time.
Yeah.
Getting my master's degree in poetry, and yeah.
So it just seems like the
Keep myself
creative
busy.
road ahead is very booked up.
It is.
so to say.
Literally booked up.
I really had a great interview today. I admire you as an author
Thank you.
and an
very
artist,
much.
and thank you so much for joining us here, making it Artisan Stories, and I hope to see you next time.
You can find me GeveraBertPiedmont.com. You can also buy them from me in person.
I really just hope that this program does reach out to some people who are looking for some very interesting reading material.
That would be nice.
And they could purchase your books and be very entertained.